And by popular demand, we are doing Tuesday's talk today. And I started just kind of asking the group what you wanted me to talk about. And today, the response that I got had a lot to do with energy and a little bit about chakras and about energy exchange and how we can protect ourselves from some of the negative energy that we encounter on a regular basis. So let's start first of all, just to get a little bit of an understanding on what this idea of energy is and what it means about for us. So you hear the term tossed around a lot. You have good energy, you have negative energy. And really, ultimately, everything is energy. Everything vibrates at a particular level, which determines the kind of energy that is presented out into the universe. So, for example, somebody who's very positive, really comforting, very warm and personable, they're emitting a certain type of energy. And what happens is you go about the world and you encounter different people. And the first kind of intuitive response that you get about a person has to do with how their energy resonates with you. So it's kind of that like attracts like. So if somebody feels really good to be around, it means that their energy is resonating with yours. So it's kind of that first impression that you get when you meet somebody and you just really kind of like them. Or sometimes you'll run into somebody and you just get this, whoa, man, I don't know about that person. Usually that's your intuition kind of telling you that that energy maybe is just really different from yours and doesn't quite vibrate on the same level as yours does. So this isn't to say that you're necessarily better than anybody else or that we should be comparing ourselves with other people, but it does tell us where we're in a situation that might have an effect on our health or our well-being. Because what happens is good energy flows to where there isn't energy. Or if you're operating at a lower energy, you tend to drag that energy away from people who have more energy. So what happens in this energy exchange that goes on in the universe is there are people that walk around the universe with really low amounts of energy. And usually that manifests as complaining, really just being irritable, being envious, always talking about their problems, their challenges, having a victim mindset. We call these people energy vampires because what happens is they walk around the planet with this low level of energy. And then those who are walking around with a higher level of energy, they're really drawn to them because there's a location or a source for them to pull some energy from this other person. So rather than changing their own way of being on the in the universe or on the planet, they're just sucking off of the good energy around them rather than doing the hard work themselves of generating that energy or raising their level of energy. So what we need to be careful of in the spiritual journey as we're trying to raise our own vibration, which by the way is our first job, is to look inward and determine whether or not we need to be doing some things differently to allow our energy to be raised on its own. But we may be doing all of those things or really working hard at raising our energy level, but we might be finding ourselves in the presence of other people who have negative energy or who have an energy that is soaking off of our energy. So when you run into those types of situations, the first thing for you to do is just to become aware of it. And that's a lot of what we're doing in our mindfulness practice, is teaching you awareness of how our current existing energy situation is, and then getting a better awareness of our surroundings. So when we talk about energy, we refer to things called the chakras. The chakras are basically the picture of our body energetically. So there are essentially many chakras, but the 7 main ones that we refer to are connected with different types of behaviors or manifest themselves in the universe in different ways. So we talk about the 7 chakras. The root chakra, which is the one that's at the base of your spine, kind of at your tailbone, right where you're sitting. The root chakra has a lot to do with safety and self-protection and self-preservation, security, things like that. So when you have a really strong and clear root chakra, you're very comfortable in your own skin. You feel very safe in the world. When you're having other challenges, and there's so much more, I could do a whole series on the chakras, but I'm just going to kind of go over these a little bit lightly for you to get a little understanding. But when you're not feeling safe or secure, that has something to do with your root chakra. And then as you move up the chakra system, the next chakra is the sacral chakra. And that has a lot to do with relationships. So, sexual energy, if you are having a very hard time relating to other people in that relationship situation in your life, that's a sacral chakra issue. Moving up the chakras then is the solar plexus. And the solar plexus has to do with your confidence in your, it's a lot to do with career and how you present yourself out into the world and how good you feel about that. So that's your solar plexus chakra. And then usually these energy vampires attack in those places. So when somebody is draining energy from you, it's usually coming from being pulled out of those first three chakras. And those are all very kind of physical, in the world type chakras, you know, security, relationships, career, confidence. Those are very base or lower level functioning chakras. They're very important, but it's kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. If you don't get those met, it's very hard to have the energy flowing to the upper chakras, or the chakras that have to do with, for example, the heart, which is the love, the center for love, true love, unconditional love. And then moving up is the throat chakra, which is about speaking your piece and feeling bold and confident in speaking your mind and your truth and being authentic and being authentically you. And then moving up into the intuitive, or the third eye chakra, which shows up right about here, and it has to do with how well you're connected to source and feeling and recognizing energy and recognizing your place in this planet and what you're here to do. And then lastly is the crown chakra, which is truly your connection to source. So our energy moves up and down and through these chakras in our lives, and throughout the course of our lives, those chakras can get blocked or even damaged to some degree. So if you're around a person who, for example, is always negative or always putting you down or always hammering away at you with a really, really negative energy, they're just soaking your life out of you. They're just pulling that energy away from you, typically those first three chakras. And you're not able to get even to the good stuff. You know, you're not able to get to the higher level energies very effectively because you're so busy taking care of yourself and protecting yourself and trying to relate to others and feel like you belong and that you're secure in this world, and just trying to meet your needs on a day-to-day basis out in the world. So it's very hard. It's why so many people on the planet never get into a spiritual journey at all, because they're spending their entire lives trying to clear those chakras, and they're all blocked and darkened, and there's no energy flow going on through those chakras. So just to get a good idea, when you're around that and you're feeling that, and as you're improving your mindfulness practice, you will feel that. You'll walk into a room and you'll know that the energy is different, that it just doesn't resonate with you. And resonation is really important. Resonation is where the energy in your body connects or is magnetically attracted to something that's similar to it. So if you have good energy and you're really trying to become more mindful and be a better person and bring your fullest self into the world, and you encounter somebody whose energy is so different from yours, you know, they're just not even beyond, you know, what they're going to do in this moment. They're not even thinking about other people. They're very self-absorbed, selfish. That person can pull your energy away, and you have to be really careful that you're not spending a lot of time immersed in that type of energy. So yes, there are some ways to protect yourself. One of the first and most powerful ways to protect yourself from those energy vampires, and let me give you some examples. I've got some written down here of some examples of who might be an energy vampire in your life. It might be your best friend, who most of the time talks about all of her challenges, all of her difficulties. Now, there's one thing about being friends and talking, and that's one thing, but when all they talk about is what's wrong in their life, that starts to draw your energy away. It might be your boss who pushes you to the limits and has a problem if you stand up for yourself. So if you're encountering that on a day-to-day basis, that can be really draining. Maybe a partner that manipulates you into doing what he or she wants and isn't interested in you being authentically you. A drama queen who's always looking for attention, or a victim who just feels like the whole world is against them. When you spend a lot of time, and we as empaths often want to help those people, but when you spend a lot of time in that energy, it starts to drain on you. And one of the ways that it really shows up is physical illness. So if you're really, really tired, you're really feeling fatigued or drained, a lot of chronic fatigue syndrome, lupus, things like that are often caused by a real negative energy draw, consistent energy draw from your system. and it often manifests in physical illness like cancer. So it's really important that you protect your energy and that you don't allow yourself to be in that situation for prolonged periods of time. So the first one is to learn to say no. So listen to yourself. When somebody asks you to do something for them or wants you to do something or to hang out with them or to let them complain to you or let them unload on you, ask yourself, go inward and ask if this is a good situation for you to serve in, and listen to that. And if the answer is no, be okay with saying no. I mean, not being willing to say no has a lot to do with those lower chakras and not really standing in your truth and taking care of you first. So remember that strategy. Just remember to say no. And it's going to have to be okay. If it's not okay, then that's not a place you need to be anyway. But become aware of your energy as well. Start doing the mindfulness work that it takes to really turn inward and recognize this is not a good situation. And recognize it before you're so far into it that you're exhausted and you can't hardly get out of it. Realize also that your energy stays with you. It wants to stay with you. So if you find yourself in a situation that you've got to be in, and you've got to be submerged in some of that negative energy, go in there prepared. I mean, really talk to your chakras. Put your hand on the different chakra areas of your body and ask that the energy stay present with you, that it not escape you or be pulled away from you. You can literally tell your energies to stay put. And one of the greatest tools to this energy drain that you encounter from other people or other negative situations is love. Remember, love is the strongest energy of all. So pulling yourself up through those chakras into your heart chakra and really connecting with your heart, asking for guidance and strength as you're doing an interaction that maybe you feel like you have to do because you're in a serving capacity. Ask for that and understand that when you're coming from a place of love, nobody can affect you. So there's strength in that. There's strength in residing up here in your heart chakra and really staying present right there throughout that interaction and even afterwards while you're trying to recoup that energy and strengthen the energy that you've already got. And then there's a process called cord cutting. So if there's somebody in your life that is just draining your energy and maybe you can't, you're just not in a position where you can move them out of your life, you can certainly separate yourself as much as possible. But you can do this process called cord cutting. And what that has to do with is really visualizing your relationship with that person and going through a series of visualizations of cutting that cord in your mind's eye. Really imagining that there's a cord between you and that person and cutting it and breaking that bond that seems to be pulling your negative or your energy away from you into that negative person. So gently disentangling themselves from your life is a nice thing to be able to do. If you can gently move from them, that's a beautiful way to handle it. If there's somebody that has to be in your life, there's sort of the karma that you've gotten, all along. You didn't choose it, but it's maybe your mother or your child or something like that where you just can't get rid of that relationship. Do this cord cutting each time that you're together with them, and you'll have to do it multiple times because every time you get in that person's energy, they're going to probably reconnect to you and start draining you again. So I have a person in my life I have to do that with on a regular basis. Whenever I'm going to be around her, I have to visualize that cord cutting before and after our interactions just to keep that energy draw from being a persistent problem in my life moving forward. So make sure that you're taking care of you. Understand that this notion of energy is, even though we can't feel it and touch it, and we can't really get a solid take on what it is all about, we are all energy. And the more inwardly focused we become, the more we can connect with our inner guides and our inner guru, the more we're going to be able to notice when our energy is being pulled away from us. But don't forget that the first and most important job that you have is your own energy, to make sure that you aren't being a draw for the people that you are around. So our first and best job is to work on ourselves, to really go inward and build that relationship through a mindfulness practice, to grow and raise our energy level so that we're actually contributing to the good in the planet rather than being a draw for somebody else. So again, I'm happy to talk more on the chakras. I can certainly go more in depth on that. But some strategies, again, be ready to say no, become more aware of your own energy through your mindfulness practices. Ask your energy to stay, communicate with through your chakras, connect with yourself and your aura and your energy centers to keep them full and healthy and clear. And remember that love is the strongest energy of all. And then you can always do that cord cutting, that mental imagined cord cutting that will help you separate from an energy that's not serving you. I hope that answered some of your questions. I'm happy to address it even further if there's something more you'd like to know. But that's it for Tuesday's Talk. Have a wonderful day and keep that energy high and flowing all the time. Love you. Namaste.